Well, we're rounding third and heading for home. And as we prepare to close the program this morning, I want to introduce you to the man who is, in a sense, the reason we're all here. If it weren't for the visionary work and faithful leadership of Kevin Williams, Rising Leaders may not exist today. Years ago, Kevin and his wife, Katie, followed a dream to launch a local chapter of a national ministry organization, a great one called Young Life, to minister to young people in urban Cincinnati schools with a particular focus on reaching under-resourced students. Kevin and Katie were a compelling, effective team that built a ministry from scratch, which grew to enlist dozens of volunteers and board members serving hundreds of students in some really challenging contexts. And during Kevin's time leading Young Life, he and his board began to envision a work that could grow and diversify its own leadership pipeline by identifying students who might, with help, overcome the many obstacles in their way, to discover, develop, and deploy their own leadership gifts and return after graduation to be ministry leaders. It was that envisioned work that has today become Rising Leaders. Kevin eventually left his role working for Young Life, but he never left his calling to serve others and to help people develop their leadership gifts. He founded and served as a managing partner at a leadership consultancy, The Answer Group. He's held several successful career positions since then. He today serves as head of sales for an enterprise cloud platform called Generous. And in his progression from Young Life all the way through to Generous, Kevin has honed, I would say, a keen ability to ask the right questions, to listen attentively, and to provide transformative insights. He's quickly earned increased leadership responsibilities in every organization where he worked. He understands what great leadership is all about. Kevin's pathway to his remarkable success and powerful influence was quite an unusual one, a very unlikely one, I might say. Like Lamarque, Kevin was a rising leader before the Rising Leaders organization existed, and I hope you'll get to hear some of his compelling story. But without further ado, please join me in welcoming to the stage the grandfather of Rising Leaders, Kevin Williams.
Oh, the gray hair says that. So, good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
So I'm gonna land this plane. So what I want to do is I want to play a game to end us. So it's a game that we've all played before. We're gonna play Monopoly this morning, but we're gonna do it a little differently. There's gonna be a little twist. So what we're gonna do is, at the flip of a coin, half of this room is gonna get twice the cash. That same group is also going to get $200 every time they pass a go, and they'll get to use 2 dice, while the rest of us use only 1. Now, my question to the group would be, what do you think the outcome of the game will be for the other half? That was actually a study that was done at UC Berkeley. But what was really interesting about that study wasn't just necessarily the rules in the game. It was the interviews they had with the participants. So when they interviewed the participants, they found that those who got the advantages with the coin flip didn't actually talk about the coin flip when they were asked why they won.
Right.
They talked about their acumen,
Right.
their competencies, and the great decisions that they made throughout the process of the game. On the flip side, the other group that didn't have the same advantages had 2 responses. Typically, very quickly, they either got disengaged or they quit. And you wonder why they gave up. And that's why we're here this morning. Because it's easy to say that we're all playing the same game, but in reality, we all come into it with a different starting point, with different resources. I didn't choose to have a single mom. I didn't choose to have a dad that wasn't present. And as Dr. Bankston so eloquently pointed out, when you start out without resources, you have to be extraordinary to live an average life. Where on the other side, you can be average and live an extraordinary life. Rising Leaders, in my belief, removes the coin flip and balances the game. And that's what we're talking about. Because we want to catalyze the work that has been going on. So we got to hear from great speakers like Dr. Bankston and the Mark A. Ward, and we heard Gladys passionately talk about the vision for rising leaders. But most importantly, what I heard and what moved me tonight, or this morning, not even yet, it's been a long morning. What moved me this morning was hearing from our rising leaders themselves. Hearing from Marnell, hearing from Jay, hearing from Ethan, and listening to Gladys talk about our resident OG Shimon, who hopefully you'll get to meet. And as Brian said, I can personally attest to the importance of support, guidance, and opportunities that an organization like this provides. I can only imagine if a young biracial kid like me with a single mom had an opportunity to have a mentor and guidance at the age of 17 or 18 or 19. But I don't want to forget what Dr. Bankston pointed out, is there are anomalies like us. But I don't know if everyone's as fortunate as I was to have a Brian Gardner and a Gladys Risma and a Chris Beard who were there for me in my late 20s and 30s. I can tell you right now, I would not be standing here today if that was not the case. This is not just another program. Rising Leaders levels the game, and it transforms generational lines, because that's really what we're talking about, is we want to change generational family trees. I know for my situation is that because of the benefits that I've had and where I am now, my generational family tree will be entirely different than what it should have been or could have been. I should have been a statistic. And so what we're doing is we're taking these seeds that are rising leaders and we're planting them, right? But what do they need? They need fertile soil, they need sunlight, they need water, they need all those things. But most importantly, they need gardeners who can tend to that soil. And that's what we are here today to do, is to provide that ability to have those gardeners. So I want you to reflect on what we've heard this morning. I honestly could have walked up here and just said, Arnell, Ethan, Jay, Shimon. I want you to reflect on what they said and the impact that rising leaders had on their lives. And ask yourself, do we want to help and be a part of investing in building strong, resilient, generational family trees? I know I do. Because we'll have more Dr. Bankstons and Kevin Williams and Lamarque Wards who maybe don't have to go through some of the complex adolescent struggles that we went through. So we have two goals this morning. You're not getting out without this. Come on now. We have two goals this morning, and I didn't bring it up. I had it in my hand. Thank you, Brian. So the first one is very simple. The first goal is to show how Rising Leaders, I believe, is a trailblazing organization creating generational change. I think we've done that. The second is to raise $250,000 for the Community Investment Fund. And that's part of the overall goal that Lamarque talked about of $2 million. Now, I'm going to be very honest. I'm a transparent person if you know me. I know there are people in this room who could write a check for $250,000 right now, and I would invite you to do that if you feel so inclined. However, what we're really looking for are people to join us to help tend the soil, to help the seed flourish, to build those generational family trees. So if you could grab your Rising Leaders donation card right here. It says Rising Leaders at the top. It says time, talent, and treasure, because that's what we're looking for, is time, talent, and treasure. So if you look at this, you'll see under the section where it says email right there, there's a section here that says the treasure of your network and talents. So it's not just financial investment that we're looking for. We're also looking for investment of people. We're looking for partnerships. We're looking for relationships. So, nominating a rising leader, maybe you know someone who would be a great rising leader and could really benefit from Gladys and her team. We need people to serve on the board. That is something that I think, as you saw from Lamarque and from Brian and others, that's a huge need to have that support backing. And I know this from personally being in ministry myself. There's nothing more critical than having a great board. And then obviously, if you could introduce us to corporations, churches, foundations, or grants or anything like that would be wonderful as well. But as Lamarque said, right below that, there's another way that you can invest with us. And that is to give. And as John Beischel said, the counselor at Winton Woods, why wouldn't you? So we have a couple of options. Again, we're looking for 3-year commitments, and the reason we're looking for 3-year commitments is, as Gladys talked about, is when you're running an organization like this, you want to make sure that you know that you have what you need to complete the work as it goes on. This is not something that is going to change, and as we talked about, this isn't just throwing dollars at something that is temporary. This is generational change that is looking to happen, and that takes time. And so knowing that Gladys and her team have the financial resources to do that changes the game, and it levels the playing field. So $500 a month for 3 years, and you could look at the different levels that we're looking for. And so what I would say is, I gave you time to kind of think about this, is as you look at what you heard this morning, I want you to picture the impact of that generosity. And I want you to look right here at me, look at Dr. Banks, and look at Lamarcus Ward. And I want you to understand that the impact you're having isn't just for 1 year or 2 years or 3 years. The impact of Rising Leaders is in my kids, and in Arnell's son, and in Ethan's children, and in the impact that Arnell's going to have on others. It is generational multiplication that is going to happen. So we ask you to consider that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a couple minutes to pray, think about possibly joining us in giving. I'm going to come back up. And then I'm going to close this out and pray, and then you can be free to go. We're going to have some wonderful music as you kind of think, and I'll be right back.